Bismillah, walhamdulillah, wassalatu wassalamu ala rasulillah. Brothers, assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Welcome to lesson 2 of men's health, physical health. Here we talk about understanding your physique type in light of contemporary science and classical configurations of physique. So you've got 3 basic types of physique. First is ectomorph. Ectomorph is someone who's lean, skinny, someone who we call gangly or lanky. They find it hard to put on weight. That's the ectomorph. The endomorph is usually someone who finds it difficult to lose weight. They are generally rounder shoulders. They may have a bigger belly, so to speak. They find it difficult to lose weight. And you've got the third type, someone called a mesomorph. A mesomorph is someone who finds it quite easy to build muscle, generally has a higher metabolic rate. They're the mesomorph. So first ecto, endo, and meso. You also got the hybrids as well. You've got people who are ectomesomorphs or mesoendomorphs. They kind of are almost hybrids. But to give you an example of a ectomorph, look at someone who's perhaps a basketball player, someone who's a long distance runner. They're very lean, very little muscle fat, very little muscle mass, very little fat as well, but very lean body mass. BMI, your body mass index being quite low. Then you've got someone who's an ectomorph. They usually may or may not have some muscle, but they hold a lot of fat, roughly 25-30% or more for a man, and that's a high level for a man, because for a man you should be looking at ideally under 15 and kind of 12 to 14 range, because women have 20-30%, men should have below 20% ideally. So endomorphs have much more fat, they may hold muscle, and they find it difficult to lose weight. So think of your endomorph like perhaps someone with a dad bod. They may or may not have muscle underneath all that fat, but the predominant body feature is that of excess fat. That's the endomorph. The mesomorph, now think of someone who's a sprinter, a swimmer, a gymnast, a footballer. These are athletic, they have high muscle mass, but very little body fat as well. Now, when it comes to weight loss, a lot of people say, I'm going to lose weight. If you lose weight as a man and you don't have muscle, you look like an ectomorph. You look very lanky, skinny. You look very emaciated, someone who's not ate very well. And that's not the goal. The goal is to recompose your body recomposition we call it, i.e. lose fat, build muscle, not lose weight. Because in fact, if you do that, your weight may increase. If you build muscle and you lose fat, your weight may increase. So the goal is never weight loss. The goal is fat loss. And I'll be talking over the next few chapters, lessons rather, in this module on physical health, about what each person can do who's a mesomorph, ectomorph, and endomorph. Let's start with the endomorph, those who find it difficult to lose fat. The goal for these people, the first and foremost goal, should be maintaining whatever muscle they have as a minimum, if not adding to it, but losing the fat they have, getting to sub 20%, certainly less than 15% if they can. That's the goal of the endomorph. And they can usually do that by steady state cardiovascular exercise, resistance training, and intermittent fasting with a short eating window. So majority of their fuel will come from their fat, not their food, i.e. they will be in a calorie deficit, meaning their calorie intake for the day is not being met by what they are eating. Therefore their body resorts to the reserve fuel found in their fatty tissues, so they will lose the fat. They need to be in a calorie deficit or roughly 200 to 400 calories a day, and they will start eating into their fat. They will lose the fat, and hopefully maintain or build muscle if they are incorporating sufficient amounts of resistance exercise into their regime, which we will talk about in the next few lessons, inshallah, in this module. That's number one for the endomorph. For the ectomorph, those that find it difficult to put on weight, whether that's fat or muscle, their main goal is not to lose fat. They're probably very lean. They may have 12% body fat anyway. Their main goal is to put on muscle. So these ectomorphs, this body type, needs a different diet and exercise plan, one which incorporates much less cardio but much more in terms of calories, particularly fat. For both the groups, ecto and endomorph, the amount of protein should be the same. That's roughly 1 gram of protein per pound of body weight. 1 gram per pound. Whether you're losing fat or building muscle, you need roughly the same amount. Okay, there's been studies done on this. It doesn't really vary, so it should be the similar amount of protein. If you're a bodybuilder or an elite performance athlete, then yes, of course, you need a bit more protein, but protein usually should be around about 1 gram per pound of body weight, or 1.2 to 1.8 grams per kg if you're based in the UK and you work on kgs as well. Some people used to say 2 or 2.2 grams per kg. That's way too much. Roughly 1.8 maximum, 1.2 minimum grams of protein per kg. So if you're 80 kg guy, you should be looking at 100 to 120 grams of protein per day. You can easily get that in either 1 meal, 2 meals, or 3 meals. That's achievable, and that should be the goal of an ectomorph. Increasing protein, but certainly increasing their fat as well as their carbohydrates, particularly low glycemic index carbohydrates such as brown rice, quinoa, sweet potatoes, cassava, plantain, etc. That's the goal of the ectomorph who wants to put on weight, usually muscle, even a bit of fat as well, because they're very, very lean. That's number 2. Number 3, the mesomorphs. Usually mesomorphs are blessed with an abundance of fast twitch muscle fibers as well, and low body fat. You see a lot of mesomorphs in West Africa, in the Caribbean, in Japan for instance as well. People find it very easy to put on muscle. These are mesomorphs. So depending on their goals, whether they want to get leaner or bulk, their diet and workout plans will vary according to that. Inadvertently, it can be hard for mesomorphs to put on size because they can build muscle easily, but because of their increased muscle mass, they have a very high basal metabolic rate, because the more muscle you have, the more fat you burn, because muscle has a net thermic effect, meaning it burns more calories. So they find it very hard to put on weight compared to someone who's an endomorph, because the amount of muscle mesomorphs have makes them very hot in terms of their temperature. So they find it, they need more calories to put on 1 pound of weight compared to a endomorph. Ectomorph, for instance, the one who's very lean, lanky, for instance, they find it even more difficult than a mesomorph to put on weight because their body's very lean. So inshallah, in the next few lessons, we'll talk about exactly what to do, the diet strategies needed, the exercise, whether it's 5x5 or 8x3, similar volume in essence, but different body types require different workout regimes. Usually, mesomorphs need 5x5. The ectomorphs need slightly less repetitions and higher strength, and the endomorphs need more repetitions because they want to lose the weight. But just to recap, 3 body types: ectomorphs, those who are skinny and find it difficult to put on weight; mesomorphs, those who are muscular and have low body fat; and number 3 is the endomorphs, those who have reasonable amount of muscle, if not much muscle, but they have a lot of fat, and that's the issue there. And we've trained people, alhamdulillah, over the last 10 years who are all 3 really. So inshallah, we'll go through these in the next few lessons. Barakallahu feekum. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.